yesterday. A receiver got paid, and once again, it wasn't C.D. Lamb.
And Greeny was the largest extension given in Bears history, an average of $27.5 million a year for DJ Moore. 4 years, $110 million, $82.6 million guaranteed. And again, we are waiting on certain wide receiver deals like C.D. Lamb, like Brandon Ayuk, like Tyreek Hill. And lo and behold, DJ Moore comes sneaking in the back door with a big extension.
Somewhat quietly, the Bears have really put something together here. And so while these teams will go at it tomorrow night, there have been already a lot of comparisons between what we might see from Caleb Williams this year and the rookie season we saw from C.J. Stroud last year. Our own Damian Woody yesterday had these thoughts here on Get Up.
Fair or unfair, the expectation is going to be comparable to C.J. Stroud. And it's because obviously C.J. Stroud comes in, has obviously the best rookie quarterback season of anyone in NFL history. So the expectation is there's really not going to be a grace period. I don't think that's fair, but I'm pretty sure that most people think that Caleb Williams should hit the ground running because of the way he's been surrounded by the talent and what C.J. Stroud did last year with the Houston Texans.
It's sort of a nice summation of the situation, Lewis, because there are a lot of factors going all at the same time here. One of them is that the Bears could have drafted in last year's draft. They chose to trade out of that, and so in theory they could have taken C.J. Stroud. We'll never know if they would have if they'd have stayed at number one. But that's one factor in this. The second is that Caleb Williams comes in much more highly touted, a much higher rated prospect than Stroud had been in college, and walks into a situation that everyone keeps telling me is the best situation any number one overall pick quarterback has ever walked into in NFL history. So, Are the expectations unfairly high for Caleb Williams as a rookie, Lewis?
No, not at all. I think this is exactly what, if you're Caleb Williams, you expect to be the case, considering what my last 2 years of college were like at USC, one including winning the Heisman Trophy. The fact that I have been called a generational talent, a guy who, right or wrong, a guy who's been compared to some of the greats coming into the league in terms of pure natural throwing ability, pure natural playmaking ability. And the fact that, look, they sent another former number one pick packing to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they drafted me because I was supposed to be the one who finally resurrects this position for this franchise. And to top it off, what has been talked about all offseason, that this may be the very best situation that any rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL has stepped right into. In the history of the NFL, when you're talking about offensive line, run game, weaponry on the perimeter, with the only question mark really being the offensive coordinator, that being Shane Waldron, is he the guy to really usher in this whole new era of quarterback play? Look, the expectations should be as high as they possibly can be. There's a lot of things adding up to this young man being able to hit the ground running, and that's just the way it is. And I think he accepts that challenge.
Look, Bart, I remember you on a team that had a rookie starting quarterback from week one. Oh, you had Flacco, too. So you had two of them. You had Flacco starting in Baltimore. You had Sanchez starting with the Jets. You add up the expectations for the two of them, and they were not half of what people are expecting from Caleb here. What are you expecting?
I mean, both of those guys, we ended up in the AFC Championship. But you have to bring them along slowly. You got to understand, you have to crawl before you walk. You have to walk before you run. And they have to make sure that they have patience with Caleb and lean on that running game and defense and start to give them more of the playbook. I believe with Flacco and Sanchez, we probably started 3-0, and then the league figured them out. And it's because they were giving him too much. I know you remember the red light, green light, when he can be aggressive, when he couldn't be aggressive. You can't, put the expectations of C.J. Stroud. Everybody's situation is uniquely different. He is equipped with a great lineup, a great team to support him. But if he goes out and plays hero ball, or if he sees the blitz and not being patient, and they try and skip steps, they're going to regret it. And they're going to damage his kid because he is in one of the more competitive divisions in all of football.
Or you bring up C.J. Stroud. There were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round this year. Caleb Williams at the top of the list, number one overall. Whether they like it or not, every quarterback now entering the league is going to be measured up against C.J. Stroud because of how he played last year. Better than any other quarterback rookie ever had. And now all these guys, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, if and when he gets called upon, any of these guys are going to be measured against a guy who set the standard last year. He elevated the bar for rookie quarterbacks. Expectations for first-round draft picks at rookie quarterback already are high. he made them higher. And when they struggle, and inevitably some of these guys will struggle, it's going to make it all the more challenging because of the success that C.J. Stroud had last year.
I can remember everybody being measured to Joe Flacco and Sanchez. How many people in between that period of time before we got there and we got to Caleb or C.J. Stroud, how many of those guys fell flat on their face? I mean, 2 of them was right here in New York when you talk about Zach Wilson and you talk about Sam Darnold, right? Fell flat on their face. So sometimes it's like the water boy. Everybody went out to try to recruit the water boy, Bobby Boucher. Bobby Boucher is a rarity.
Hey, Louis, let me throw something out here because it is our job not just to go with where the wind blows, okay? Well, yes, everyone's going to be, those expectations are going to be out there because of what C.J. Stroud did. But I had Dan Orlovsky sitting in this seat yesterday, and he said, here's the reason the expectations shouldn't be the same. Because of the offenses these guys came from in college. So, Louis, no one watched more film of this than you did. He said, this is Dan talking yesterday, that C.J. Stroud was walking in having done a lot more pro quarterback stuff on the collegiate level than Caleb Williams had, and thus was a lot more ready to hit the ground running. Thus, if Caleb starts a little more slowly, because he's starting to pick up stuff at the line of scrimmage and all sorts of things that was being done for him from the sideline, not to be surprised by that. Not all quarterbacks are developed the same. Louis, does that make sense to you, yes or no?
I guess it does in theory. I mean, if that in fact is the case, of which I can't really speak to just how much CJ was pro-ready as it relates to being the quarterback at Ohio State compared to what Caleb was doing at USC. As a matter of fact, though, think about this. How many times have quarterbacks at Ohio State been considered guys who maybe weren't as pro-ready because of the fact that Ryan Day's offense and the weaponry that they had allowed them to run a very simplistic offense that really didn't tax the quarterback very much? So, I mean, it kind of cuts both ways. And on top of it, when C.J. Stroud came out, we remember all the things that people were saying about C.J. We remember how people were saying we didn't know if mentally he was ready and equipped to be the #2 quarterback overall and lead an offense that really nobody expected anything out of last year. And they hit a rookie offensive coordinator in Bobby Slowick. Nobody expected that kind of performance, quite honestly. I mean, as a matter of fact, people thought Bryce Young, considering the situation he was going into, would far outplay C.J. Stroud. Far outplay him. So, look, I'm not putting any – look, I understand what Dan's saying, but I think what really matters now is what the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, does with Caleb Williams and how he's able to get him up to speed now. That's what you're paid to do now. Well, I don't want to hear what he did at USC with Lincoln Riley. And considering the fact that we, again, have been talking over and over, good offensive line, good running game, the weapons, oh my goodness, they may be the best weapons in the history of mankind. They may be the best weapons that any young quarterback has ever had. Caleb is a freak talent. He needs to hit the ground running. Simple as that.
And Lou, you remember this. Do you remember people talking about C.J. Stroud with these great expectations last year coming in? He may have had that tutelage at Ohio State. We didn't hear much about how pro-ready he was coming in. We didn't hear how he was going to take the league by storm. There were not great expectations on C.J. Stroud a year ago the way that there are right now with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams comes in, fair or not, with a different set of expectations than C.J. Stroud came in last year. C.J. Stroud took the league by storm, surprised a lot of people, including many teams who believe Bryce Young was the #1 quarterback prospect in last year's draft. And C.J. Stroud wound up having as good a rookie year as any rookie quarterback has ever had, with the chance to be a great quarterback now going forward.
And that's why, because the expectations was low, so he was able to get his business done in the dark. The light is going to shine bright on Caleb Williams. He has so much talent. He's going to have high expectations. It's going to be hard to live up to if he's trying to listen to the chatter outside the building.
It has been one of my lifelong philosophies that there are very few things in the world better than low expectations. It's worth remembering. By the way, let's put the full screen up there. Let's just show it, because C.J. Stroud, the world loves him this year, that's for sure. Yeah. Stroud is currently plus 850 to win MVP. That is the second shortest odds of any player.
Wow.
It's Mahomes and then Stroud. By the way, he's also getting 15% of the bets at ESPN Bet. That makes him the most popular betting option to win MVP by number of tickets. So those expectations have flipped completely. The world now expects it all from him. All right, Schefter, let's get it from you. Run the hurry up. 3 storylines this morning everyone needs to know. Go.
We'll start in San Francisco, Greeny, where there continue to be 2 contractual situations that are out there that have not been solved. Trent Williams is not in camp. He's as good a left tackle as there is in the league. And Brandon Ayuk, there's no solution in sight. He's at camp. He's not going through drills. The Niners still would like to re-sign him, but there's a difference, a disagreement on his value. We'll see if they can figure out a way to get that done. The other storyline we're watching this morning is in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase. Let me take you through this. Mandatory minicamp during the offseason. Didn't practice. First few days of training camp. Didn't practice. Yesterday, first padded practice. Didn't practice. Nobody has said it's a hold-in. But the fact of the matter is he wants a new contract and he hasn't practiced. What do you think it is?